Hi there, this is Shanna Kramer, and we are painting watercolor outdoors in my outdoor studio. I have right here, I have this Arches cold press. I have a half a sheet, which I have the other half taped off, just did another painting. I have my half pan here of some watercolor paints and my dirty water from the previous painting. It's going to be just fine for our purposes. All right, so I want to paint a tree here. So let's get to it. We have a pencil, and I have the ground coming down here. Just a nice tree happening over here. It's one thing I really like about the outdoor studio, as I call it, is all the wildlife that's around here. If you're listening to these sounds in the background, did you hear that? I'm not sure what that is, but might be a baby raccoon looking for its mom. Every once in a while we hear something that sounds like a baby crying, and then some critter will go running across the yard looking for a baby. We've had baby raccoons running across here, mommy raccoons. We have loons flying over, and those suckers are loud when they're not on the lake. Quite loud. Okay, so here we have our basic tree. And I have my dirty water, which is going to make it really easy to see what areas I've painted. So I'm going to start with my lightest part of my farthest away hill. And I'll tint that a little. I probably should have mixed up my colors to begin with, but let's just see here. I'll go right over here. So now I've got orange, and I'm just going to mix it in my red purple well, which is fine. Just going to add a touch of like blue to that, just to kill it down, make it grayer. Okay, just a touch there. Tilt it up a tiny bit. I'm just taking up some of this excess water here with my thirsty brush. To get a thirsty brush, you just dab it a lot on your towel or your sponge or whatever it is you're using to absorb your water. There, I'm just coming back and picking up some of that extra. Don't need all that. All right, I'm going to leave my sky a nice transparent color up here. I don't need any color information in the sky whatsoever. I do want to come down here into my next layer of hill. I'm going to pick up some of this dirty color for that and just come right into my hill. My tree, I think I want my tree to be more transparent. I should have probably not painted it in right there, but I did. So I'll have to probably come back over that with some gouache later, maybe. Something to brighten it up. Okay, so now I've got my hill. Got some nice brown in there, so maybe I'll just add some more purple to it. This time I'm being a little more careful to leave my whites white. I normally paint with acrylics, so leaving whites white is not an important thing when you're dealing with acrylics, but when you're painting with watercolor, it is the most important thing. I'll tilt it up again. Some extra paint dripping down there. I'll just absorb that. All right, and now because this area is very wet and I want to continue painting my ground, I'm going to come down to this section, fill that in right now. I do want a little more blue in that one. So let's see what we can do. I'm going to try some washes here. This is going to be my dark blue wash, if I can get it dark enough. And this I can fill in because there are no tree trunks. There we are. Now I can come back in with some nice browns. And this will just be my next wash layer. And I've got my purple brown mix. And I'll pick up a little bit more purple in that. There. Now you'll notice I'm slowly moving my brush over this wash, and that's really going to help get the most even wash possible. You've seen some washes where it's just smooth gradient, top to bottom. That's what I'm going for here. Can't guarantee it's going to work, but that's what I'm going for. Best chance at that is just keep moving your brush slowly. Don't go back up again, if you can help it. I don't like those lines that are in there, though. I'm going to chop them up. Start top to bottom. When you get to the bottom of your wash, stop. I have my paper tilted up, so I'm going to come down to the bottom, absorb with my thirsty brush. There. That should work out pretty well. So now while my ground is drying, I'll come back up to these leaves. And I'm really liking this brown, purple, kind of orangey sort of color. Get a little bit of water in there. More purpley in there. Okay. So what I want is a fade. Okay, I'm taking a really thin amount of that color, tilting up my paper once again, and I'll start on one of these smaller areas. Just kind of dampening the area. I'm getting a really uneven sort of a fill. I don't want it too smooth. I want a nice fade, so I'm going to continue to hold the paper up. There. But I want the edges to be nice and uneven, interesting. So I started with the really thin amount of paint at the top, mostly water, and then added more paint as I worked my way down. Just thinning this out a little now. I don't want to add pure water to it because it'll start to create blooms around it, and that's not the effect I'm after. I just want this to be thinner, lighter. Okay, onward. Picking up a lot of water on my brush and a little bit of pigment. I'm just going right next to that. And more water, I think. I want that to be thinner. Going with some wiggly shapes. I know I've drawn my lines on there, but if I want my shapes to be more wiggly than that, I make them more wiggly than that. Now is my opportunity. Okay, so now I've got, there we are, shapes in there, and I'm going with a slightly darker color. See, I don't want sharp edges, I want soft edges, I want roundy, roundy shapes. Okay, now I'm going for a much stronger pigment for this part, which means I might need to pick up directly from the orange and the purple wells. There we go. Now that's a good strong color. Now just fill in the shapes of the bottom of those trees. This is more of a graphic tree, not a realistic tree at all. There, and I want round shapes. So there we are. Make it roundy. And to make it gradient. So it's fading dark, or very light to dark. Kind of a little bit of mottled color in here. I'm okay with that. All right, on to the next shape. Barely picking up any color here, and then I'm going to come over to my next tree shape. Not touching the shape above it because it might still be damp, and I don't want it to pull that color down. I want the top to be very light, and it won't be if it pulls the color down. Now I'm picking up a stronger color. A little too much water there, so I'm going to have to come back and pull some of that water off. Let's see if I can control the shape a little bit first. So the shape I don't mind. That's a pretty good shape. But the amount of color and where the color is at, I'm not happy with. So I'll pick up some of this water, and I'm picking up some of the color with it. That's fine. I'm just wiping off my brush on a paper towel now, and then going back and picking up a little purple, a little orange, going into the mixing well. Oh, a little stronger than that, I want it. There we are. Now we're talking about good strong color. There. Yeah, that's much better. And it's even okay to pick up just one color at a time here and there. There, I've got some good strong oranges. I'm going to give it a little bit of a mottled effect. Okay. It is important that I have my paper to tilt for this though. All right, couple more of those shapes. Now this is pretty much just dirty water on my brush. Okay, wiping off the excess water on my brush. There's kind of a lot of it on this paper as well. And then going into the well, picking up strong color, and then just dropping it at the bottom. A couple more of those shapes. It's another one right here. We'll start out with really light, which at this point is no longer really, really light, but that's okay. We get the point across. And then I go in and pick up my orange and my purple. One more of those. There we are. All right, so at that point I will call the tree leave areas done, and then we'll move on. I think we can probably get to our last section of ground now. This is going to be the warmest section, so I've got some brown, some orange. We're going to make this really bright, really warm to contrast this blue down at the bottom. this one is going to go right up to the tree. Get some really darks in there. Make sure we leave our tree trunk. I'm coming back in with just clean water at the very top. And then the clean water, once I touch it down to where the color is, it's going to pull that color up into the clean water, and it'll create a gradient, but with this top part of the gradient being a really light, pretty vibrant, and that's what I'm after. Yeah, I guess I waited a little too long to try any splatters on the ground. Sometimes you can make some little bursts in the ground and or in any area that you have color filled in. It's not working on mine because I've waited a little too long for it to dry, and that's just fine. Okay, now I'm going to go back to some darker areas. So I'm going to go with purple and brown. I have some tree trunks and some branches to fill in here. I might even add a touch of blue just because these are going to be a little, I don't want them to be too warm colored. And this right now is all very warm colored. And I think I want my tree trunks to be a little bit cooler. So I've got this little bit of blue in here, but I haven't really used the blue for anything. So to make up for that, I'll add some blue in to my tree trunks. There we are. So I'm going to get some really dark shadows on this one side. And you can see that's just going to take right off in the areas that where the ground is still a little bit wet. And I kind of like the way that looks, so I'll help it along. Push some of that color in. I don't know if you're listening to the background sounds at all. We've got a few birds chirping in the background, and then we've got some fishermen coming in. We hear some boat motors coming in. I'm not sure what they're catching at this time of day, time of year. It's middle of July, and it's almost 9 p.m., so Minnesota. I'm pretty sure all the panfish are pretty much done. They might be fishing for walleye, maybe northern. I mean, who would fish for northern on purpose? But walleye, maybe. Just a couple of weeks ago, you couldn't even walk past the water without catching a sunfish. Sunfish are really fun to catch, and they're pretty tasty. If you're lucky enough to have one of those days on the lake where you go out and you spend an afternoon and you catch just hordes and hordes of sunfish, just enjoy it. Consider yourself lucky. Cook them all, eat them all. I mean, man, those are just some of the best fish that you can get. Very good fish. Plus, I can clean them with my eyes closed. So, I'm always a fan of sunfish. Let's see if we can get a few brighter colors in here. Oh, that's nice, isn't it? Just a splash of direct orange, just right there in the trunks. Okay, that's... I like that. I like that color. That's pretty nice. You know, I wasn't going to do any splatter painting this round, but I think it just might. see what happens. Okay, I'm gonna call it before I overwork it. I think this one needs to be done. So purples and oranges, a little bit of blue, and we have a nice little graphic looking tree off in the distance.